Twilight Registry, Case File TR-338. Anomaly Classification. Institutional Memory, Class 7. St. Anselm's Community Hospital has 9 floors and 312 patient rooms. If you work there long enough, you learn the geography of its small dread. The elevator that arrives a half-second before you press the button. The pediatric ward that smells like cut grass in winter. The basement corridor with a fluorescent light at the far end flickers in a pattern that certain longtime staff describe independently and without coordination as breathing. Room 14 on the 3rd floor has been sealed since 1987. The door is locked. The key is logged as missing. There is a maintenance work order attached to the exterior handle. Work order number 884412, issued in March of 1988, listing the job as pending. The work order has been renewed every 18 months for 37 years. The job description reads, investigation and remediation. The job has never been closed. Carla Shen had been a night shift nurse at St. Anselm's for 11 years. She knew the building the way you know a house you've lived in for a long time. Not through active thought, but through the body. She knew which stairwell doors caught on the frame, which supply closets smelled like mildew, which rooms ran cold, even in August. She knew about room 14, the way everyone knew about room 14, as a piece of ambient institutional folklore. The sealed room, the old death, the work order that never closed. You registered it the way you registered any fixed feature of the building, the same way you registered that the 3rd floor ice machine was slow, or that the break room microwave had a stuck button. It was simply a fact of the place. On the night of the 14th of September, Carla began her shift at 11. She checked in at the nursing station, took the handoff from the evening shift. 7 patients, 3 on monitoring, 1 post-op. Routine notes, no flags. She made her first round at 11:20, moving through the familiar rhythm of the work. Door, light, chart, patient, notes, door. At 11:43, she reached the end of the 3rd floor corridor and noticed that the door to room 14 was open. Not wide open, not ajar in any dramatic horror film way. Open the way. A door is open when someone has passed through it recently and not quite pulled it closed behind them. About 8 inches. The light from inside spilling in a thin wedge onto the corridor floor. Carla would later tell the registry, "My first thought was that maintenance had finally come to close that work order. My second thought was that it was 11:43 on a Thursday night, and maintenance would not be here at this hour. My third thought was that I needed to check whether a patient had wandered in." She pushed the door open. Room 14 was not what she expected. She had assumed a sealed room would look sealed, dusty, stripped of linens, the kind of institutional emptiness that accumulates over decades. Instead, the room looked functional. The bed was made, sheets tight, pillow cased, the bedside tray table positioned at the standard angle. The monitoring equipment was on the wall. Old units she didn't recognize, the kind of panel she had only seen in hospital photographs from the 80s. The overhead light was on. In the bed, there was a patient. A woman. Older. Carla estimated late 60s, early 70s. She was awake, lying with her hands folded on her chest, looking at the ceiling with the particular calm of someone who has been waiting and is not unhappy about it. Carla entered the room. The woman turned her head. She said, "You're the night nurse?" Carla said, "I am. Are you all right? Can I get your name?" The woman gave a name that Carla later described as ordinary, the kind of name you hear and immediately understand why you will forget it. She said she was comfortable. She said she had been waiting for her chart. Carla went back to the nursing station. This is the moment the Twilight Registry has examined most carefully in this case, because it represents what investigators call the protocol absorption window, the period during which an institutional environment's existing procedures contain an anomaly by making the anomalous feel procedurally normal. Carla did not call security. She did not call the house supervisor. She did not question how a sealed room had a made bed and a patient. She went to the nursing station to find the chart for room 14 because a patient had requested her chart, and finding charts is what nurses do. The chart was in the rack. It was in the correct position. Room 14 filed after room 13, before room 15. It looked like every other chart in the rack. Brown cover, metal clasp, the hospital's header printed on the tab. Carla pulled it and opened it on the nursing station counter. The patient name on the first line was Carla Shen. Her own date of birth. Her own blood type. A medication schedule she did not recognize, written in her own handwriting. And on the admission line, written in the same ink, in the same practiced hand, a date. Tonight's date. The 14th of September, and then below it, in the field labeled admitting physician, a signature she recognized as her own. Carla closed the chart. She told the registry, "I stood at that counter for approximately 3 minutes. I'm a medical professional. I do not frighten easily." What I felt was not fright. It was the specific sensation of having reached the edge of something. Like standing at the lip of a place where the ground has given way. And the only reason you haven't fallen is that you haven't moved yet. She put the chart back in the rack. She went back to room 14. The door was closed. She tried the handle. It did not move. She pressed her ear to the door and heard nothing. No sound of breathing, no creak of a bed. The absolute silence of a sealed room that has been sealed for decades. She knocked. No answer. She went to the nursing station and called the house supervisor. The supervisor arrived at 12:31. He unlocked room 14 with a master key. The lock turned without resistance, the mechanism smooth, as if it had been recently maintained. The room was empty. The bed was stripped. Mattress bare. No pillow. The tray table folded flat against the wall. The monitoring equipment panels were dark. A layer of undisturbed dust lay across the floor. The room smelled like closed space, like decades of stagnant air, like the inside of a building within a building. There were no footprints in the dust. The house supervisor noted all of this in his incident report. He also noted one detail that he marked as unexplained. On the floor beside the bed, in the dust, there was a small, clean rectangle, approximately the size of a chart. As if something had been set down there, and recently lifted. Carla filed a report with the Twilight Registry the following morning. She was thorough and precise. She had the training to observe and document, and she applied it. She described the woman, the room, the chart, the handwriting. She included photographs of the room taken by the house supervisor. She included a photograph of the clean rectangle in the dust. She included one more thing. She had gone back to the nursing station chart rack before leaving her shift. Chart number 14 was in the rack. She had expected it to be blank, or to be someone else's chart, or to simply be a different chart from the one she remembered, the mind finding a saner version of events. It was the same chart. Her name, her date of birth, her blood type, her handwriting, tonight's date. But the medication schedule page, which had been written in her handwriting the first time she looked, was now blank. And on the admission page, in the field where her own signature had been, there was instead a printed line of small text she had not seen before. It read, "Return visit to be scheduled at patient discretion." The chart was logged as an unexplained artifact. It is currently held in the registry's physical evidence archives. The registry made contact with the family of the patient who died in room 14 in 1987. The circumstances of that death have never been officially explained. The family declined to participate in this investigation. The registry made one additional inquiry: whether there was any documented history of room 14 admitting patients after its sealing. 11 staff members with more than 15 years of tenure at St. Anselm's were contacted. 7 did not remember anything unusual. 3 declined to discuss it. 1, a man who had worked in facilities management for 22 years, said only this: "It finds the nurses who stay." He did not elaborate. He did not respond to follow-up contact. Carla Shen transferred to a different hospital 3 weeks after the incident. She has not returned to St. Anselm's. The chart is still in the evidence archive. The registry has periodically checked the admission date field. It remains the 14th of September. The year in the registry's log is listed as ongoing. Twilight Registry. Case file TR3308. Status: open. Anomaly: unresolved. Room 14 sealed. Work order 884412. Pending. If you have ever worked night shift in a building old enough to have rooms no one talks about, if you have ever found a door open that you knew was locked, or a chart that had your name on it, or a patient who knew details about you that no patient should know, the registry's line is open around the clock. We keep records. We do not always know what they mean, but we keep them.